It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday matinee. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah, we're
Tired.
waking up.
Real tired.
Yeah, were you up all night, JJ?
Yes,
Is that what
I
you were
was.
saying?
I'm ready to go to sleep.
Are you gearing up for a job that's like you're working nights?
No, I told Steve this story, but no, it's the opposite. I got back from a conference in Vancouver, British Columbia on Thursday night late, and then I had a bunch of anxiety going back to work on Friday. I had a bunch of things that I needed to do. I had calls to Sweden and all these things. So I had a sleep apnea attack. Woke up screaming and couldn't get back to sleep. So I then powered through my day on Friday and promptly came home and went to sleep when I got home from work on Friday. So I slept from 4 to 11. See, this is like rolling into our Saturday here, right? So I slept from 4 to 11, woke up and decided, hey, I'll drive some Uber and Lyft tonight. So I went and did that, drove Uber, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody threw up in my car for the first time ever. It was Chris.
Oh, wow.
Got my Uber puker down. We'll see how that goes. Had to send off some pictures and...
Do they give you a little like badge or sticker to put,
No, that'd be great.
like on your profile, puke survivor or something like that?
No, that'd be so awesome though if you wouldn't like the vomit badge. No, I don't think so.
Achievement unlocked, level 1.
Yeah.
It's like Cub Scouts. It's like Uber Scouts.
Right.
You get your new badge.
Yeah. No, I think there's like a $250 inconvenience fee, but we'll see. I'm hoping they take care of it. If not, I'm going to be none so happy with Uber. But yeah, so I did that, and then I got home and I finished The Shining. Because that's been on my list, and I have to return it to the library. So that's why I've been chatting with people in our Discord about my, walking in and out of the room and going to get drinks and chips and snacks while I try to keep myself from not being scared while I watch The Shining. But so I finished that, and then I saw you guys were on, so I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go to bed.
Now, what was the other? You had rented two horror movies.
Get Out.
Oh,
Get Out. Have you watched that one yet?
I haven't. Yeah, I'll get to it. I'm actually a little more excited about that, because it's more current. But yeah, no, I'm nervous about that one too.
Well, it's exciting. It's exciting. Well, I finally caught up on Deadpool 2.
What did you think?
But I had a great time with it. I just love that it's so meta. Like they play so much with the idea that they are very aware of themselves and aware that it's a movie, and all of the opening with his resentment of Logan and everything. It's just like,
yes,
it was so
great. Yeah.
I had such a great time with it. I loved the characters. I thought they boosted it up story wise from the first one. I had just a fantastic time with it. My only frustration with it, and it has nothing to do with the film itself. It's with the idiotic parents who bring young kids.
Oh, seriously?
What is that about?
There was a dad who had 3 kids who were all probably under 7 years old.
No.
And another dad who had his son who was probably about 9.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
Too young.
It's just,
wow.
there's bad parenting and all of that, but it literally makes me uncomfortable when I watch a movie and I have these little kids in there knowing that they're seeing these things on screen. It's like, and it's hard for me to get out of that headspace. So I always resent that because it just makes me feel like I'm enjoying the movie less because they're there.
That's terrible. Yeah, no, and I've seen it twice in the theater now, and I've been thankful that there haven't been young kids, because there were when I saw the first Deadpool, and I felt like that was okay because that was a little bit like people didn't get it yet. Like this was a new kind of superhero movie. They didn't understand that it was going to be so vile. Vulgar, I should say vulgar, funny, because I love both movies quite a bit, but I haven't had that experience yet with Deadpool 2. And gosh, 7?
Wow. Yeah,
that's way too young.
I was just hoping that maybe they were falling asleep in the back, not
right.
to anything. But come on, people.
Right.
I mean, really, this is why we need to have instituted. This is what the whole NC-17 rating was really for, and unfortunately, it completely fell apart because they again just thought it was going to be more pornographic types of films, and it wasn't. And I know Martin Scorsese and Spike Lee came out about it in the late 90s, early 2000s, asking for a new rating so they could have these movies that were adult only. And that's what NC-17 was supposed to be for. They said Saving Private Ryan should have been a rating like an NC-17 because kids should not be watching those sorts of films.
Right.
And Scorsese has said that about a number of his own films.
And what ruined it? Capitalism. right? Because all of a sudden then
right.
it became a money thing where movies started changing their movies so that they could actually get more people coming to the movie. So yeah, that's really unfortunate.
It's interesting because it was really Blockbuster that kicked off the whole anti-NC-17 thing, because they said they weren't going to carry them,
right?
And then that pushed this whole thing backwards, where then theaters were like, or different chains were like, oh well, we don't want to show it either, because I like Henry and June, I think, was the first NC-17 movie, and I went and saw it in the theater, and it was fine. It wasn't anything awful. It was an adult movie, and I think that it's one of those things that now that the market's not as driven by like a Blockbuster type of place, and I feel like NC-17 or that type of rating could be something that Netflix could probably integrate into their system. I mean, they already have it where you can have different different controls for different people using it. And I feel like it could create a space for things like that.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Well, I will say, though, you say Blockbuster, and that I still hear capitalism.
Yeah.
Well, in the end. Yeah. So it's
I worked at both a Blockbuster franchise and a Blockbuster corporate store when I was younger. So I had a lot of firsthand experience with them.
Well, I think part of the issue, I mean, there's a capitalism issue, but I think the other issue is just sort of like American sensibilities, where no matter how graphic the violence is, you could look at that and people are still like, oh, well, that's still okay. But, if anything that gets sexual, like, that's completely inappropriate for kids. And that's what ended up happening with the NC-17. Well, I don't know that there were many films that were NC-17 solely for violence. It was like, there's like male frontal nudity, or it's really explicit sexual content, or, things of that nature. Whereas, it seems like you can keep amping up the violence and everybody is still okay with that. And that's the culture of America, where, kids can be exposed to violence and that's fine. Parents are okay with, it's just, it's fake killing. So it's okay for my kids to see that.
And the interesting thing about that is that Deadpool is both.
Well, yes, that one is really both.
So parents, don't take your young kids to Deadpool. That's the message.
No.
But that becomes meta too. I mean, they make the joke, you parents, you think this is not a family film. I mean, they went all the way with that movie.
They really did.
About family.
Which it was. It was very funny that they said that in a film that still was completely inappropriate to bring your family to.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, have you had much of a chance to catch up with any films this week?
I just got out last night and saw Hotel Artemis.
How was that one? That looked like a really interesting film from the trailer, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be much of a success or not. What do you think?
It's going to find its audience on like streaming and video, online. I don't think it's going to have a really solid performance out there. It is a film that has A-list actors in sort of what is typically like your B grade, genre film. It's a lot of fun. I mean, the whole concept is, I guess the script was out there before the John Wick movies, but it sort of feels like it fits into that type of universe where you've got a hospital for criminals, and there's all these rules, and they have to have a membership to get into Hotel Artemis. So interesting characters. So you have this environment where you've got interesting people that are there. Not as much action, a lot more about character. So it feels like that smaller. It reminded me a lot of Cube. If you guys ever saw that one.
Yep.
Yeah, where it's like, so it's a lot of characters, a lot of talking, not heavy on the action, constrained environment. You're in a very small space. So it works well within that. It's not doing anything, terrific where I'd be like, wow, this is really breaking new ground, doing something new. But it's fun. Some interesting little twists and some clever moments with a 3D printer. I enjoyed it. Like a 3-star film. Nothing that I say you have to go out and see. There's plenty of other stuff rolling out all summer, but I had a good time with it. But it knows what it is, and it does that well. Dave Bautista is a lot of fun, and this is the orderly of the hotel. And you've got Jodie Foster, Jeff Goldblum, all these names, and it's just like, wow, this is like a big big name cast for a film that I don't think typically would attract that type of cast. This is something where I'd expect a lot of like mid-range or no-name actors and something that would typically be straight to video. But I think because there was a perception of it's sort of this John Wick universe that it might connect with audiences a little bit more. But it doesn't have anywhere near that level of action or stylized, fighting in it. It's just really, small group of people fighting off a bunch of, maniacs that want to come in at one point. But I had a good time with it.
Well, it seems like one maybe I'll check out,
Yeah.
but maybe I'll wait till I can rent it later. Well, should we kick off trailers, fellas?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any Red Band or A24 this week.
I guess we'll have to go with who the order we posted it. So with that, Steve, why don't you kick it
Okay.
off?
My God, it was like trailer mania this week. It was like, I listened to you guys last week. It was like, you guys were like scraping the bottom of the barrel for trailers because it was like everybody was waiting for this week to come out. So I have a film that is about 7 strangers, each with a secret to bury. They meet at Lake Tahoe's El Royale, a rundown hotel with a dark past.
Tahoe. Cool.
And over the course of one fateful night, everyone will have a last shot at redemption. And we've got Dakota Johnson, John Hamm, Nick Offerman, Jeff Bridges, Chris Hemsworth, and a film written and directed by Drew Goddard, who I really enjoyed his Cabin in the Woods. It did some really fun things with the horror film genre and tropes. This one has a very sort of noirish feel to it. Possibly some little twisty mindbender things going on. People aren't whom they seem. You typically wouldn't cast Jeff Bridges as like a priest. So interesting film. This is one I love movies like this where you've just got an eclectic group of characters coming together, looking at how they're going to interact, who's playing whom, and for what reasons. And then you've got the staff of the hotel and what they may or may not know about the people coming and staying there or the history of the place itself. So this is one that to me is that perfect summer counter programming to the big blockbusters with lots of CGI and action and fun, which is great to have out there. But this is something that's a little bit more, I guess, introspective on this one. And it is coming out, I believe, August 8th, I want to say. Let me double check here on this. It has a release date this summer of, October 5th. So much later. So not summer counter programming. This is you're cooling off, getting ready for Oscar season. Here's something that is neither summery nor Oscar worthy. October 5th.
Well, I think it looks really fun. It has a great vibe to it. And you're right. Cabin in the Woods was a really refreshing kind of twist on horror films. And this, just the story, everything about this just has like a really interesting vibe. Like there's a lot going on here, and the characters certainly kind of drive the trailer. And I'm certainly looking forward to this one. It did pique my curiosity, though. I found it so interesting that there's this hotel that's like basically built on the border between California and Nevada, and it made me wonder how often this is a thing. Like how often are there places that straddle borders? I feel like I know of one that's in I don't know if it's somewhere down like Alabama, and I don't know if it's which direction from Alabama it is, but there's something along its border that it's like 2 bars or something that they're across the border from each other, and they do like an annual thing where they like throw fish at each other or something, like some fish thing, some crazy thing. So it's funny how people take border stories like this and can turn it into something that's kind of fun. So
yeah, well, and now when I was in Tahoe, I worked for Heavenly Ski Resort, which is famously in the 2 states, and it's the second largest by area ski resort in the country after Vail, and it's it's always an interesting thing there. I lived in California and I worked in Nevada, so this is really neat that they're doing this sort of thing with the border story, because that's a relatively regular feeling that the folks up there in Tahoe are dealing with.
My curiosity was piqued, so I looked it up. There are 7 bars where you can drink in 2 states at the same time.
Oh.
This is so funny that there's a whole website about this.
That sounds like a bucket list thing to do. Go to the 7 border bars.
Yeah, right. There's the Whetstone Station along the river between Vermont and New Hampshire. The Wabagon, which is it's in Wisconsin, but you can only get to it from Minnesota.
It sounds right.
So you have to cut it. There's the State Line Showgirls, which is on the Washington-Idaho border. It's a strip club.
Okay.
And let's see, there's the Bar 9150 / Tamarack Lodge, Heavenly Mountain Resort.
That's the one.
Yeah, right. This is up in Tahoe. Patrick's Pub and Grill is Tennessee and Georgia. Cal Neva Hotel, which obviously is California and Nevada. Yeah. Florabama Lounge and Package. That's the Florida, Alabama one that I bet is the one that I was thinking of that has these, the annual mullet toss. There you go. Yeah. It's not hair, it's throwing mullet fish across the state line. So there it is. Fun times on the Saturday matinee, right? Well, my trailer, I'll just move right along. Of course, I'm a big John Carpenter fan. I recently did a marathon and watched all of his films. I know it's probably not up your alley, JJ, but it's the new Halloween film that is coming out this year that David Gordon Green is directing, written by Green along with Danny McBride of all people and Jeff Fradley. It is it's a really interesting next step for the Halloween films, because this film is essentially a direct sequel to the first Halloween and is kind of dropping the continuity of all of the previous sequels, everything that's gone on between it. This film takes up basically decades after the original 1978 film, and it basically says, hey, this is a story about Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis again, and Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers, and they are it's a situation that takes place all these years later, where she has been prepping herself for the eventual escape, which she seems to know is coming, of Michael Myers. And of course, he does escape. And now he is going after her, and she is now a grandma with her own daughter and kids. And now she's kind of the one who's trying to protect everybody. So this is kind of a continuation 40 years later of the original Halloween story. And I love that they're doing that. I love that John Carpenter is coming back in to do the music for it, and it just feels like very much a great continuation, a great way to kind of continue this franchise and do something kind of fun with it. So I'm quite excited. What do you guys think? Or specifically Steve?
Because you don't even want to know what I think about it.
Well, I know you didn't watch the trailer, and I know you probably never bothered with any of the movies because they're horror. So
yeah.
But you can certainly speak to what you think of the concept.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, it's been a long time since I've seen any of the Halloween movies. Now, I think I only ever watched the first 3. I never got into the like reboots and all that, because I thought, no, I'm not even going to go there. And so it had been such a long time. I had forgotten that the whole storyline of Michael Myers being her brother was something that came out in the second movie. I thought that was something that was part of the first. So knowing that slate is entirely wiped clean, and as I recall, in the first movie, it's what he falls out the window, and then she looks, and then he's gone, and that's where the movie ends. I know the second one picks up like immediately from there, but to then stop there and then say, now we're jumping forward, 40 years, so interesting, because I think opens up the potentials for the story, so much of what has transpired with Laurie and Michael over those 40 years, and then to be hopefully ultimately the final resolution of this story. But yeah, I'm very excited. Horror is not one of my, primary genres, but to me, this is horror, but it's got that character piece to it that I think is going to be really interesting to see this story unfold. So I'm really excited about this approach to this franchise.
I love the concept. And I think, when there's so many people who are complaining about the fact that that Hollywood's not making original stories and stuff like that, I think that something that they're trying to do with these old franchises now is think of new innovative ways to attack these old ideas. And I'm starting to like it. I'm liking the creative ways of looking at this. I think something like this, like you're talking about with this story, bringing back or approaching the Jamie Lee Curtis character from what her story becomes, I think that's a really smart way to look at it. And I guess it brings back some of the magic from the original films when so many people get frustrated with sequels as they go. So, again, I'm not going to see it. It looks terrifying. But I'm really happy that they're doing this kind of thing with this franchise, because I think especially people like you who care so much about John Carpenter, this is a way to re-engage the fan base as well.
Well, and he's been wanting to get back involved. He's always been kind of hoping that there would be good sequels. I mean, he even admits to not having seen all of them because he knows that there's probably a lot of crappy ones out there. But he's just like, I think he kind of got involved and wanted to see if he could find a way to help somebody do something good. And so Blumhouse, which is a great horror distributor production company, they got involved. They got the rights to it. And Carpenter said when he heard the pitch from Green and McBride, he said they get it. And so I feel like this is a great way to continue. I'm still just so surprised by the creative team behind it, but just because people who are known for a lot of their comedy are involved doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to handle it. I think that David Gordon Green has been a very competent director, and I think he'll do fine. So,
well, and we talk about Get Out, and that's the thing that kind of came from Get Out, is that there's this union of There's this sort of idea that folks who are skilled at comedy also have this love and this fascination with horror. So, it might be really interesting to see what they bring to this movie too.
Looks like it's going to it's Halloween, and it's going to be opening around most of the world just before Halloween, between October 18th and November 1st. It hits Netherlands slightly after, but here in the US it'll be October 19th. So there you go. All right, JJ, what is your trailer?
Well, I took a look at the list that we've been talking about all these trailers that came out, and the one that I saw, even before I saw that list, just so much reaction on Facebook and people seeing the trailer for A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper coming out, and I was captivated by the stuff that I saw with this. I don't know that much about the historical versions of this movie. In '76 it was Chris Christopherson and Barbra Streisand. Before that, 1954 with James Mason and Julie Garland, and then the first one that I could find here is 1937, Frederick March and Janet Gaynor. I don't know about that history with that, but just seeing what's coming out with this one, I'm definitely going to want to see the movie. The trailer's really interesting in that the music cues in the trailer are really special. It's one of those trailers that you watch and you get emotionally involved with it as you watch it. So I think it was really well done. I love Bradley Cooper. He's directing this movie. Lady Gaga looks great. And I think one of the interesting sort of things in the trailer, I don't know if this is part of all the movies, but she makes the point that that people don't like the way she looks, even though they like the way she sounds, which I think is super interesting because Lady Gaga has gone through this transformation in her own music career where she was so theatrical at the beginning and she's pared everything down. Her most recent album was much more acoustic. She was not wearing, she was wearing more plain looking makeup. I think it was called Stephanie, her real name. So now she's playing this character who's doing this thing too. It's a really interesting sort of transformation for her as an artist, and I'm just excited to see it. I think it looks really interesting, inspiring, and beautiful. And maybe if you guys have seen the other A Star Is Born, maybe you can warn me a little bit if there's too much tragedy or negativity in it, because I see also in the story notes about this that it has to do with Bradley Cooper's character being a bit of a star that is actually on his way down, as the female character is on her rise up. So, yeah, everything in the trailer looks really inspiring and fun for me. So, what did you guys think, and what do you know about the other movies?
I've never seen any of them, but it's a series Pete and I have been talking about quite a bit, and more so now that we know this version's coming out. We think it'd be fun to look at all 4 versions in a series. But I do know that that's kind of what the story is. Somebody latches onto this potential talent, and her career takes off while his takes a nosedive. I think that's kind of the standard version of the story. So I'm excited to buy this one. I think it looks great. I love the fact that Bradley Cooper is turning to directing now. I think he's an incredible talent, and I look forward to seeing what he's going to do here.
Other people in the movie too. Want to let you? Dave Chappelle's in the movie.
Yeah.
Which, doing a dramatic turn, that's kind of fun. And then also Sam Elliott. I mean, there's a lot of fun people to watch in this movie as well.
Yeah, here's the thing. I had heard about this, months ago, and then I just forgot about it. So trailer showed up. I was like, okay, let me watch this. And I'm like, oh, okay, Bradley Cooper. Oh, he's directing. Okay, I'm excited by this. I mean, he's I think a really talented, creative force, and I'm really interested to see what he has, learned from all the directors he's worked with. I think he's worked with some amazing directors, to see what he's picked up and what he's going to bring to this. And then it's like Lady Gaga. I was like, oh, totally forgot she was in this. Didn't recognize her because apparently I'm not good with faces. But again, I think, she is. I was actually honestly surprised she was still sticking with the Lady Gaga name, because to me, this seems like the perfect opportunity to take a break from that personality and then be, as her sort of her given name, Stephanie, and go under that name, but she's still maintaining that Lady Gaga.
Yeah. I checked IMDb for it right away too, because I thought, oh, she's going to be Stephanie now.
No, but I think that's this is really interesting. I have not seen any of the other ones, but it's interesting that this is sort of like its own franchise that just is continually rebooting itself every generation or so. Of like, there's something apparently compelling about this, archetypical story of, the star, what is that process? And I think it's interesting to revisit that every so often to see how things change in the dynamics in the music industry. But yeah, this is, one thing is Bradley Cooper starting to look old. I thought, oh gosh, I remember first discovering him on, as I recall, Andy, you never watched Alias. I think you and Pete had a discussion about that, but way back in the, what was that, 2001, seeing him start on that, J.J. Abrams TV show, and to look at his career trajectory is just amazing. But I see it in his face now. He's matured. He's growing older, and I think has that life experience to, I think, bring something to tell to this story. So I'm very excited about this. I think it's a nice story to tell, and I hope movies like this continue to draw audiences, because I think these are the films that often get pushed out by the bigger, noisier films. But I think something character driven like this can be just so rewarding when done really well.
In theaters also in October. It's going to come out, what I saw was October 5th. So should be a good one to get out there and see.
Quite a load of October trailers today.
Yeah, I'll hit. Yep. Yeah.
All right, gents. Well, with that, I think we should do our lists. As our Patreon supporters know, we posted our list options over on Discord, and the options for this week that we had presented everybody were, and this is all based on the Ocean's 11 remake, Steven Soderbergh's 2001 film. The list options were remakes, movies that take place in Las Vegas, or movies with great team building. And the one that was chosen was movies with great team building. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So with that, gents, who wants to kick it off?
I'll do it.
I think JJ should go. He hasn't been here in a while, so let him.
Especially because I don't want you guys to start the list and then realize that some semantic reason I actually chose something that was not appropriate for this list, which I feel like I do every time I'm on this show. So, like in the great grand tradition of Bill Clinton saying it depends on what the definition of is. I wonder what you mean by great team building. Does that mean a lot of team building, or does that mean it's a good example of team building, or does that mean anyway? So here's where I'm starting. So Pitch Perfect 2, not the first movie, which I think actually had some team building in it too, but there's a montage in Pitch Perfect 2 where our favorite Bellas, the singers, are getting back together to go and sing again, and they get together and they do a bunch of sort of like basic training type things, all while doing a mashup of some crazy different a cappella songs and in the ways that they force them to sing back and forth. It's not particularly special or emotional like some of the other stuff that you may like if you like the Pitch Perfect movies, which I do, but it represents team building, and it's a full montage of it, which I guess fits in every campy comedy like the Pitch Perfect series. So that's where I start, and you can find that entire montage available on YouTube. Pitch Perfect 2.
I haven't seen that one. I've only seen the first film. I need to catch up on that franchise.
The second one's all right.
Yeah. And the third is, diminishing returns, but they're all pretty good.
I just mostly I love that Elizabeth Banks has been directing. I just love to see that she's taken the helm of that franchise.
They're her movies, and she takes a lot. I mean, she takes a lot of pride in them, which is totally appropriate. So they have in Pitch Perfect 2, there is a cable cam shot, and if you listen to now, I've been told this by the cable cam guys that if you go and you listen to the commentary on the DVD, this is kind of the thing that I really appreciate about her influence on the movie is she's so appreciative of the film and the work that she did to put those films together that when the cable cam shot comes up and it's just this wide shot that comes from the back of the exterior auditorium as they're coming up on one of the bands or one of the a cappella groups singing, she's saying, "That's my shot, that's my cable cam, that's my thing." And so it's really kind of neat to get that thing from the people who are so involved with making these movies that they care so much about the different resources they're bringing to the table too. So I really like that, and that's all on Pitch Perfect 2 on the DVD too.
All right, Steve, why don't you go second?
Okay, I guess we're gonna have a trend here about getting the band together, because I'm going with 1991's Alan Parker film The Commitments, which is about getting a Irish soul band together in the early 90s, and this hit I think it was like my junior year in college, and musically to being on the verge of like the whole like grunge thing about to happen, and to have a movie focused on, just going back to musical roots and seeing this group of, like Irish teens digging into some just great music and some great performances. And just, it's been a long time since I've seen this, but this was a soundtrack that I think I probably wore out the CD on this thing. Just such great music, a great story. For me, Alan Parker, just was a director that I always knew I could expect certain level of excellence and just enjoyability out of films from him for a certain period of time. And this was one that, as I sat and thought about putting a team together, I thought, this is something I really want to go back and revisit. And so I thought I'd share this with everybody, because I hope it's a film that hasn't been forgotten. So I want to bring this back, sort of dust it off the shelves and put it out there and say, hey, maybe go back and revisit this one.
Oh, I'm glad you picked that one. I love that movie. For some reason, the thing that always sticks with me isn't even music related. It's all the bathtub interviews that our lead does with himself as he's imagining his fame down the road. I just always loved those bits.
Yes.
So, such a great film, and that's one I really need to go back and rewatch, because I just loved it back when it came out, and I don't think I've seen it since. So I definitely need to look that one up.
That's
again.
one of the ones that everybody had the soundtrack to.
Yes.
The music is so good that everybody had to have it. It was I remember seeing that, CD in everyone's cases. It was great.
Well, I do think that we ended up with a strange trend to kick off our list.
Okay.
Not only is mine a band, but it's also an Irish band. So what are the odds of that, Steve?
Oh no.
I'm going. I'm going with a much more recent film, but one I completely fell in love with when I watched it. It is just the absolutely fantastic 2016 John Carney film, Sing Street.
Oh yes.
Yep.
Yes.
A great coming of age film, and it's about this boy who starts this band to impress a girl. And I mean, what more do you need? Not only that, but you have the fantastic bit where as he's trying to figure out what to do, Connor says, we need to form a band, and he's got that line, and then he makes the best face, as like, it's like almost a meta reference to making that sort of line in a movie before the montage kicks in. It was just hilarious. And then of course he goes off to find all of his little friends to help out his outcasts, the other school weirdos and stuff. So such a great film and an absolutely great bit of team building here. So that's my first pick.
Such a good pick. That movie, everybody should see that movie. It's so great. I mean,
it really is.
I've seen it so many times and I never caught it, in the theater or whatever, but it's one of those that's such a hidden gem that if you don't know this movie, when you hear someone say Sing Street, you should go see it, because I can't imagine why anyone would dislike that movie.
Oh, my kids. Right. My kids love this movie, and it's a great nostalgia trip for me because it's set in that 80s. And so you've got, the musical influences that they're drawing from, whether it's like Hall & Oates or Duran Duran, and just that. I mean, I was at that age, The Cure, all that stuff. And then to be able to sit down and enjoy this with my kids, to sort of expose them to, music that music they heard in the house growing up, and to see this packaged, in this film together as a story that they can really identify as teenagers. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Such a great, perfect film to sit down with for family movie night. Everybody is going to love it. John Carney is just like on a roll. I just so much enjoy everything he does on the screen.
All right, JJ,
okay.
What's next for you?
Okay, so this is going to be really weird if we end up changing themes as we go too. But my second movie here is Major League, the original Major League. Because and we talk about team building. It's tough to think about this, but really the whole concept of the Major League movie is bringing a whole bunch of kind of a ragged band of miscreants together, and them turning out to become the team that bonds together and sticks with each other to get and win the championship. So it's a whole long process of this team building where you have Wild Thing with Charlie Sheen and Wesley Snipes and Tom Berenger and all these different people with different maladies and different quirks and whatnot. And there's just great moments of team building throughout the movie where these people bond over the things that they do wrong and the things that they do right, and they end up loving each other and being successful together as a group. So I think most of the people that are our age have probably seen Major League. It's, that old sort of raunchy comedy as well. I think it's a fantastic movie. I think you guys have actually done it for the next reel, for the main show, haven't you?
We did back in one of our baseball series when we were doing that.
Yeah, I think it's one of the better baseball comedies that are out there. You should go see it.
Oh, it's a great one. I have so much fun with this one. Ever since I first saw it, I've always loved it. So it's just got a place in my heart. It's a fun one to watch and rewatch. So, and you're right, great team building in this one.
That's the thing. When you talk about team building, it's like, first thing is like, you've got get the band together movies, and then it's like, oh, get the group of misfits together in a sports movie. And so several of those crossed my mind, but my second pick is going to break that trend. I'm not going with a sports film, but I'm going with a different type of team building. This is a movie that I saw, I think I discovered on cable, like on HBO. It must have been in maybe 8th grade or something, or a freshman in high school. And this is one of those movies where it sticks with me because it's not a movie that was like, your target audience is not like teenagers. This isn't one of those movies. It was a serious adult film telling a huge story. But for me, as young kid being interested in space exploration. The Right Stuff was just a movie that blew me away of, identifying, the whole quest to find the first astronauts and to tell that story and to sort of along the side have, the story of Chuck Yeager, who's, this great pilot that chooses not to go down that path, and sort of see his story as well as those of, Alan Shepard and John Glenn, an amazing cast, so many recognizable faces that were just getting their start at the time, to see, like Dennis Quaid and Ed Harris and Fred Ward, and this Philip Kaufman tells an epic story, just something that overwhelmed me as a kid, of just a deep exploration of American history that I wasn't really that familiar with. And to be, as a kid, entertained with something that wasn't, geared for kids, but to be really riveted by a true story of our, an important era in our history, just really stuck with me. And I think it's just one of the great films that came out of the early 80s.
Yeah, I think I don't remember it a whole lot. That's a movie that I'd love to go back and revisit, because I know it is special. It's one of those historical movies that really can give you that sort of nostalgia feel as well. I think that's a perfect pick for this theme. It's one that everybody should see as well.
All right. Well, my next choice, kind of a trend from something I talked about last week, I believe. It's the film that came immediately before it. It's the wonderful film from 1979. It is The Muppet Movie.
Yes.
We already had the Muppets from The Muppet Show, but what Jim Henson did here, along with his Muppet team and director James Frawley, and and all the Muppets, of course, is create a kind of a fun, maybe true backstory to the Muppets as to how they all met. It's kind of fun, as I think Kermit tells Robin at the beginning, when Robin asks him, "Is this really how you guys all met?" And Kermit's like, "Yeah, more or less," or something like that. It's like, because they're watching a movie. The Muppets are watching the movie of their meeting, and,
right.
And so it's very meta, and I love how that's something that Jim Henson really kind of had a grasp on. Long before it seemed like many other people did, just the kind of the self-referential nature of it. But it's great because we start with Kermit alone in the swamp singing the Rainbow Connection, and then of course he, after meeting Dom DeLuise, decides to go off to Hollywood to pursue a career in show business, and then in no short order he meets Fozzie Bear at the El Sleazo Cafe. He meets Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, along with Scooter, at their place, their church where they're living. Gonzo and Camilla. He meets Sweetums when they go to a used car lot, and of course Miss Piggy at a fair, and then Ralph at a piano bar, and eventually Dr. Bunsen, Honeydew, and Beaker in this ghost town. Just kind of bringing them all together, and then they all join Kermit as he goes off to Hollywood to get a career in showbiz. And it's such a fun movie, and just watching all of these Muppets kind of come together and latch on, it's just a joy. And I love that they do this. I think they may do the play with the meta nature of the meetup a little better in the film that came out, I don't remember when it came out, like in the last 10 years, the reboot called The Muppets, when all the Muppets have kind of separated, and they actually have this great line in that one where there's this robot that's with them, and the robot says, "Mr. Kermit, may I suggest we save time and pick up the rest of the Muppets using a montage?" Which was really funny as you then watch them kind of getting everybody. But that's my next one, The Muppet Movie.
It's such a classic. It's so great. It's a Good Things Frogs Could Jump, or I'd Have Been Gone with the Schwinn. That's still my favorite.
Gone with the Schwinn.
Oh,
weirdly, a lot of Harry Krishna jokes in that movie too. I think it was definitely a thing of the time.
Oh, it's just that was a movie that blew my mind as a kid because of the meta nature, the running gags. Like that's a myth, a myth. Yes. Oh my, Carol Kane. Oh my God. Just yes. It's a kid's classic. It's a family classic. And Andy, as you point out, as an adult going back and revisiting and just seeing so many layers and levels to that. This was one that I'm so glad you included, because I had a feeling this was going to be on your list because you'd included the Great Muppet Caper, and I thought Andy's going to take the Muppet movie. I know he's going to take the Muppet movie. I'll find something else because I'm going to let him have that because that's I just enjoyed hearing you like your little thesis of Jim Henson and the Muppets. I mean, I'm expecting a little essay from you about the finer arts of Muppet movies and meta storytelling. So.
Right. I'll have to work on that.
Super important, though. I love it. Yeah. So wait, now we just do one more each, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great.
This is your last
so
one,
no
JJ.
one's stolen any of mine. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I had thought about doing the commitment, Steve. So so that's glad. I'm good I didn't do that. But a completely different theme to this last one. The one that I'm doing is the recent movie, 2013, Ender's Game. And Ender's Game is from a great book by Orson Scott Card, the Ender's Game being the first of I think 3 or 5 book series. And if you know Tommy Handsome from the Film Board and our other TNR shows, that's what he calls his sick book. It's the book that he'll always go back and read when he gets sick. The movie is not 100% representation of the book. I know a lot of people have not really enjoyed the things that they're missing from the book or switching from the book to the movie. And it's very difficult to talk about this story without spoiling it. So I'm going to do my best to do that here because I don't think that's really our intent in what we do here. I think people should see this movie. The neat thing about the team building aspect in it is that really these kids are brought together to train to be teams to get out and save. I don't know if it's the planet or the universe. I can't remember that exactly, but the bulk of the movie is about the work that they do together to learn how to be a team and to get out and do this sort of battle that they're going to have to do at some point. And it's done in really interesting ways. And Ender is a very interesting character. There's lots of interesting characters in the movie. The movie is most known, I think, for Harrison Ford being in it, even though it's not really about his character. But again, it came out in 2013. If you haven't read the book, I definitely recommend the movie. If you have read the book, you may want to suspend some of your hopes for it being 100% like the book, but it's still good to watch because it brings the Orson Scott Card universe and books there to life, which I think is kind of special.
I'm a real fan of the book, maybe not quite as much as Tommy is, but I really was captivated by it, and I was a little disappointed with the film. I think it was going to be hard not to be disappointed. Like I felt like when I had read the book, I'm like, gosh, this is a really tricky story to tell correctly in the cinematic way, and I don't think they quite captured it. But
I agree.
But it still was a very entertaining film. And you're right. I mean, it had some interesting team building in it as they get these kids together.
Yeah, this is one of those. I almost wish I had seen the movie first and then read the book because I think there's tough choices to make when you have to condense material down and to give it to translate it for a visual. For visual media, but I think it's an enjoyable film. I think it suffers from not being able to live up to expectations set by the novel, but I think it is a really enjoyable film. And it's more than just Harrison Ford in this movie. Great kids in this movie make it really, really enjoyable. And I think one that probably it's been about 5 years. Probably people have forgotten about. And so if you didn't get a chance to see it, and you haven't read the book, go watch the movie as a sort of like an appetizer for delving into the book.
Cool.
Yeah. Last pick. What is it?
When I think about team building, and I have to go back to sort of my roots growing up in the suburbs of Chicago. And so I'm going to have to go back to a classic from when I was growing up. I just watched this, just a couple of months ago, I think, and it still just holds up. It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. The Blues Brothers. We got to get the band together. We're on a mission from God to save the orphanage. I wasn't sure how well this was going to hold up. It had been a long time since I've seen, again, another great musical, putting the band together. Dan Aykroyd and Carrie Fisher, John Belushi, great cameos from Frank Oz, Steven Spielberg. It holds up so well. I was so afraid that this was one of those, it was funny when I was a kid and it's just wacky and out there and ridiculous. But so many great moments in this film that I just loved it. And I'm just amazed at the sheer carnage, the car pileups that John Landis was able to pull off with just, mountains of wrecked police cars. And, this is no CG. This is all practical effects of just, let's just keep driving these police cars into this pile and create a mountain of metal. For me, it's a classic. There's no better, story about putting the band together, finding each one of them. There's musical moments along the way. Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, such great music, such great talent in this. This is my number one team building movie.
That's such a great one. I completely had forgotten about that one. So I'm glad that you had a chance to get it on your list, because it certainly deserves to be here.
I was amazed you haven't done it on the show. I had to check. I was like, they must have talked about this. They must have talked about this somewhere, and you guys haven't. So I thought, great, I get to put it on my list. But now I have to urge you guys, find a reason to talk about this on the main show, because I think it's a great one that can fit into a series somewhere and deserves it.
Yeah, we need to get back into great car chases series.
Oh yeah,
and throw it in there. So because it certainly warrants it. Well, for my final pick, I'm going with a kind of, I guess you could say, a mega classic. It's something that I would say we all know and love quite well. I think in recent months, it's come the franchise has certainly come under fire. But I'm going all the way back to 1977 with the original Star Wars. What a fantastic film that George Lucas created, and it's just, whether you call it Star Wars or Episode 4 A New Hope or whatever, he created just a brilliant world and a lot of amazing characters. And watching Luke come together with Obi-Wan, and then they hire Han Solo and Chewie to kind of help them, and then they meet Princess Leia, and just kind of getting this core group together that kind of took us through the original trilogy. It was just a fantastic group that they created, and it's not quite, nobody just says we got to get a team together, but I just love how they kind of go from place to place and kind of keep getting more people involved in their story. It's a wonderful way to bring everybody together. So that's my final pick. It is Star Wars.
Good picks. Lots of diversity. Other than having a theme for our first group, I think all of us we kind of span the universe in what we did here.
Yeah,
there were so many good choices out there, and I had so many others on my list that I wanted to talk about.
Like Deadpool 2. I thought for sure that was going to be on somebody's list of putting together the team of Deadpool 2
with Peter.
Yes.
And Brad Pitt, the Vanisher.
Yes.
Not Brad Pitt. That's right.
Yes.
No, like Fast Five, The Italian Job, The Avengers, The Usual Suspects, Armageddon. Like there's so many things to talk about.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Good. That means it's a good topic when there's a lot of meat there to dig into. Love it.
It does. So, well, that's it for the Saturday matinee. Thanks, guys, for joining this morning.
Thank you. I'm gonna go to sleep.
Yeah, go to bed, man. Jeez.
I was just nocturnal stuff for the birds.
Well, for all you Patreon supporters out there, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for kicking some money in to support us and keep us doing what we're doing. We will get our list options up onto Discord very soon for Ocean's 12. I got to figure out what we're going to do for that one, but we'll get it up there so you guys can all start voting on what we're going to talk about on our list next week. Otherwise, have a great rest of your weekend, everybody.
See ya.
I know.